Good evening, America and the world. This is your late night global update. Tonight we bring you a story straight out of Washington that has everybody talking. The director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation is at the center of a major controversy. A bombshell report from the Atlantic magazine has dropped allegations that are shaking the Capitol. Kash Patel, the man leading America's top law enforcement agency, is now facing serious questions. His colleagues are speaking out, his lawyers are filing suits, and the headlines are not stopping. Here's everything you need to know in tonight's developing story.
Kash Patel, is the director really passed out at his desk? The Atlantic dropped a story, putting Washington to the test. Security at the door, breaching equipment on standby. 24 sources talking, and nobody will say why.
FBI is watching.
The lawsuit just got filed.
$250 million.
Now that is a trial.
Kash Patel.
Is the director really passed out at his desk?
One phone call at 4:12 in the morning. One sentence that proved consciousness of guilt. Congressman Jamie Raskin stood up, pressed play on an audio device, and the chamber heard Stephen Miller's voice saying 7 words no one expected to hear. "He'll pardon us if we get caught." Miller's attorney lunged forward. Too late. The recording was already playing for every camera, every microphone, every person in that room. If you are new here, subscribe right now, because what you are about to hear is not speculation. It is audio evidence of a senior White House advisor discussing a presidential pardon before any crime has been publicly exposed. The hearing room that morning had a different energy than usual. Jamie Raskin walked in carrying nothing. No briefcase, no folder, just a small black audio recorder in his jacket pocket. Stephen Miller arrived with his standard setup. 3 attorneys, 2 aides, prepared statement. He thought this was about immigration policy, border enforcement procedures, standard oversight. He had no idea what Raskin had obtained through a sealed federal subpoena 3 days earlier. The first 23 minutes were routine. Budget questions, staffing levels, processing timelines. Miller gave his rehearsed answers, cited statistics, referenced executive authority. He looked comfortable, almost bored. Then Raskin took the microphone. "Mr. Miller." The room shifted instantly, not gradually. Instantly. That moment when the temperature drops and everyone knows something is about to break. Raskin did not smile, did not grandstand, just pulled the audio device from his pocket and set it on the table in front of him. "Before I begin my questioning, I want to play something for this committee and for the American people watching. This is an audio recording obtained through lawful subpoena of telecommunications records. The call was placed at 4:12 a.m. on April 3rd of this year. The participants were you, Mr. Miller, and 2 other individuals whose identities have been confirmed through voice analysis and phone records." He paused. Actually paused. "Let the information settle. One of those individuals is currently under criminal investigation by the Department of Justice. The other is a senior White House counsel." The room went dead silent. Not polite quiet. Dead silent. The kind of silence where you can hear the ventilation system, where you can hear someone shifting in their seat 3 rows back. Miller's face changed. Not dramatically. Not obviously, but it changed. That micro-expression that lasts a fraction of a second before training takes over and the poker face returns. His attorneys noticed. All 3 of them leaned forward simultaneously. "Before I play this, Mr. Miller, I want to give you an opportunity. Do you recall participating in a phone call at 4:12 a.m. on April 3rd with White House counsel and another individual currently under DOJ investigation?" Miller's voice when he answered was measured. "Careful. Congressman, I participate in numerous confidential communications in the course of my official duties. Many of these communications are protected by executive privilege and attorney-client privilege. I cannot confirm or deny specific conversations without reviewing the legal basis for their disclosure." Raskin nodded slowly, like he expected exactly that answer, wanted exactly that answer. Executive privilege, attorney-client privilege. We will return to those claims in a moment. But first, I want this committee and the American people to hear what you said at 4:12 in the morning. He pressed play. The audio quality was perfect. Not a wiretap, not a recording from across a room. This was direct capture from telecommunications infrastructure. Every word crystal clear, every breath audible. Miller's voice came through first. Unmistakable. The same voice that had been answering questions for 23 minutes. "I am telling you both, if this comes out before the election, we are finished. All of us." A second voice. Male, slightly older. later confirmed as White House counsel. "Stephen, we have protocols in place. The documentation is compartmentalized. Treasury has been instructed to classify the reports under national security review. Nobody outside our circle knows the full scope." Miller again. "And if someone talks, if one of the contractors decides to cooperate with investigators?" Brief pause. Then the third voice, younger, later identified as the individual under DOJ investigation. "That is not going to happen. We have assurances, financial assurances and other considerations. People understand what is at stake." Miller's voice again. "And if it does happen, if somehow this gets to a grand jury?" Long pause. 5 seconds. 6, 7. Then Miller spoke the words that would end up in every legal filing for the next year. "He'll pardon us if we get caught. That is already understood. The president knows what we are doing. He authorized it. If it becomes public and there are charges, he will issue blanket pardons before he leaves office. We just need to keep this contained until then." The chamber exploded. Not gradually, instantly, like someone detonated something. Journalists on their feet, camera operators scrambling, committee members shouting over each other, the chairman banging his gavel so hard it sounded like gunshots. "Order, order, I will clear this chamber. Sit down now." Miller did not move, did not speak. His face had gone completely pale. Not the pale of surprise, the pale of someone whose entire world just collapsed in real time on national television. His lead attorney was on his feet screaming, "Mr. Chairman, I move to strike this recording from the record on grounds of attorney-client privilege. This conversation clearly involved legal counsel and is protected under." Mr. Raskin cut him off. Not yelling, just talking over him calmly. "Counselor, attorney-client privilege does not protect communications in furtherance of a crime. And discussing a presidential pardon in advance of any public charges, with consciousness that criminal activity has occurred, meets the definition of criminal conspiracy under 18 U.S.C. Section 370. Your client just admitted on tape that the president authorized whatever they are doing, that they expect criminal charges, and that they have arranged a pardon in advance. That is not legal advice. That is evidence of ongoing criminal conduct." The attorney tried to respond. Raskin did not let him. Furthermore, executive privilege does not apply when the communication involves planning criminal activity. The crime-fraud exception is well established in federal law. Your client cannot hide behind privilege to conceal evidence of conspiracy. He turned back to Miller, voice dropping, becoming quieter, more dangerous. "Mr. Miller, I am going to ask you a very simple question. When you said he'll pardon us if we get caught, who is he?" Miller did not answer, did not move, just stared. "When you said the president knows what we are doing, he authorized it. What activity were you referring to?" Silence. "When you said we just need to keep this contained until then, what specifically are you trying to contain?" More silence. Miller's hands were flat on the table now, pressed down hard, knuckles white, that small muscle near his jaw twitching rapidly. "Mr. Miller, this recording was made on April 3rd at 4:12 a.m. 4 days later, on April 7th, a federal grand jury was impaneled to investigate financial irregularities in border security contracts. That same week, 2 potential witnesses in that investigation received sudden transfers out of their positions. One was reassigned to a remote facility in Alaska. The other was placed on administrative leave pending a security review that has still not been completed 6 months later. Raskin pulled out documents, set them on the table one by one. April 3rd, your phone call discussing pardons. April 7th, grand jury impaneled. April 9th, first witness transferred. April 11th, second witness placed on leave. April 14th, Treasury report on border contracts suddenly classified as national security sensitive. He looked up. Every single event you discussed in that 4:12 a.m. phone call happened within 2 weeks. You said Treasury has been instructed to classify the reports. They were classified. You said we have assurances about contractors not cooperating. 2 potential witnesses were removed from their positions. You said we need to keep this contained. Every piece of documentation that might expose what you are doing has been locked down. Miller's attorney tried again. "Mr. Chairman, my client invokes his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination and declines to answer any questions related to." Raskin interrupted. "That is his right. But invoking the Fifth Amendment in response to questions about a phone call where he discussed prearranged pardons for criminal activity does not make the phone call go away. It just confirms what the phone call already proves. He knew what they were doing was illegal. He expected criminal charges. He arranged protection in advance. That is consciousness of guilt. Subscribe right now, because what Raskin revealed next made the pardon discussion look like the beginning instead of the end. This phone call was not isolated. We have obtained phone records showing 17 similar calls between Mr. Miller, White House counsel, and various individuals connected to border security contracts over a 6-week period, all between midnight and 5 a.m., all lasting between 8 and 23 minutes. He held up a document, call log, 17 entries, each one timestamped. each one involving Miller's phone. And here is what makes this particularly interesting. These calls correspond directly with specific financial transactions we identified in previous testimony. March 16th at 1:53 a.m. Call between Miller and contractor. March 16th at 2:17 a.m. Wire transfer for $847,000. March 29th at 3:47 a.m. Call between Miller and White House counsel. March 29th at 4:02 a.m. Treasury classification order issued. April 3rd at 4:12 a.m. The pardon call we just heard. April 7th, grand jury impaneled. April 9th, witnesses transferred. He set the log down. This is not a series of coincidences. This is a pattern, a systematic effort to commit financial crimes, to conceal those crimes, to obstruct investigation of those crimes, and to arrange pardons in advance for anyone who gets caught. Miller sat completely still, frozen. His attorneys were writing frantically, whispering to each other. One of them had his phone out texting someone. But Miller did not move, did not speak. Raskin continued, voice steady, relentless. Mr. Miller, the United States Constitution gives the president the power to grant pardons. That power is nearly unlimited. The president can pardon anyone for any federal crime at any time. But what the president cannot do is use the pardon power as part of a criminal conspiracy. He cannot authorize criminal activity and promise pardons in advance to protect co-conspirators. That transforms the pardon power from an act of mercy into a tool of corruption. He leaned forward. And when a senior White House advisor says on tape the president knows what we are doing, he authorized it, he'll pardon us if we get caught, that is evidence that the pardon power is being weaponized to enable ongoing criminal activity. That is not executive authority. That is abuse of power. Mr. Miller, I am going to ask you one more time. When you said he'll pardon us if we get caught, were you referring to the President of the United States? The silence that followed lasted exactly 395 seconds, 6 minutes and 35 seconds. The longest recorded silence in a congressional hearing in modern history. People timed it. Multiple journalists, congressional staffers, legal analysts watching live. 395 seconds where Miller could have denied it, could have clarified it, could have explained that he was joking, that he was misunderstood, that the context was different. He said nothing, not one word. Face pale, hands gripping the table, attorneys surrounding him, but not making eye contact with him, just writing, just preparing. And Stephen Miller sat there in complete silence, while the audio of his own voice saying he'll pardon us if we get caught played over and over in people's minds. When the chairman finally called for recess, Miller stood immediately. His attorneys formed a wall around him. They moved toward the exit quickly, cameras following, reporters shouting, "Miller, did you discuss pardons with the president? Miller, are you going to resign? Miller, who else is involved?" Miller said nothing, walked straight out, got into a waiting car, drove away. Because what could he possibly say? The recording existed. The phone logs existed. The timeline of events matched perfectly. 4:12 a.m. pardon call. 4 days later grand jury. 6 days later witnesses transferred. 11 days later documents classified. All of it documented. All of it traceable. All of it on the record. This is not speculation. This is not conspiracy theory. This is audio evidence entered into the permanent congressional record, authenticated by telecommunications experts, verified through phone company records, time-stamped, undeniable. And Stephen Miller, senior advisor to the president, sat in that chamber for 395 seconds and refused to answer whether he discussed criminal pardons with the president. Subscribe now. Hit the bell. Releasing the full transcript of call number 8, the March 29th conversation at 3:47 a.m., where Miller says make sure the money cannot be traced back. And when that transcript goes public, you need to be here.
In our Democratic Party, we need people like Raskin. We need Democrats like Raskin. We need them to get up and start fighting instead of sitting on their asses. If they can't do that, then they just need to be primaried. We don't need somebody that's going to sit around and just collect money and not do their jobs. And this goes out to the Democratic Party. Thank you for watching.